Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into episode 2. My guest today is BJJ Purple Belt from H2O MMA, Ariane Dang.
It's time to high five and fist bump. A Jiu Jitsu podcast for the everyday grappler. Let's talk subs. Let's talk positions. Let's talk dominating the mats. Welcome to the Let's Talk Jiu Jitsu podcast with Raymond Terrence.
My guest today is a BJJ Purple Belt representing H2O MMA. She is a IBJJF Montreal Open silver medalist, a multiple times SAU gold medalist. She is a multiple times Grappling Industries gold medalist. She's also a NAGA gold medalist. She's done 2 super fights within the Montreal Invitational, and she's also the Sub-X Grappling Lightweight Champion. My guest today is Ariane Dang. Ariane Dang, let's talk Jiu-Jitsu.
Thank you for having me, Ray.
Thanks for being here. So maybe let's start off. Tell me a little bit about when you got started in BJJ and how you found Jiu-Jitsu.
Do you want the long version or the short one?
We have an hour to fill, so maybe the long version.
Okay, let's go with the long version. So I was always into martial arts when I grew up. I watched like tons of kung fu movies and karate movies, but I've never like actually done a martial art. So I was about 17 or 18. I wanted to get myself into an art where I could dedicate myself, you know, and I tried everything, and by everything I really mean everything. I did karate, I did judo, taekwondo, ninjutsu, kung fu, white crane kung fu. I tried everything, and I never stuck with it. It was like I stayed like for 2 months max, and I couldn't stick with it because I was never in love with it. So when I actually saw the videos, Henner and Hedon's Gracie videos. I don't know if you've heard of the Gracie Combatives.
Right.
I don't know if listeners know what Gracie Combatives are, but they're a set of DVDs, so about 36 DVDs. No, maybe not 36 DVDs. Like
There's quite a bit though.
They're quite a bit, yeah. And they show like really specific positions and specific techniques, and it's really good. And there was a lot of controversy about it because their program was like you can film yourself after learning all the techniques, send it to them, and then get your blue belt, a technical blue belt. And There was so much controversy about it. And so I did that. I ordered the DVDs and I practiced at home for about a month. But then I was like, this is not working out for me. I don't know if I'm doing the techniques right. Who's going to tell me? Am I doing this kimura right? So at that time, I went to Gracie Baja Laval that just opened up right next to my place. And I did a trial class and I just fell in love with it. At that time, I was training with Professor David Gigi. So he was really great to me, and I just couldn't stop. I trained every day for years. Like, I was obsessed with it. And that's pretty much how I started Jiu-Jitsu, yeah.
Okay, great. And so obviously everyone's been asking me to ask you this when I've been saying that you're coming on the podcast, especially a lot of the women that train with me or in the vicinity of our BJJ community. So what is it like being a woman in Jiu-Jitsu these days? Obviously, it's a little different now than it was before, because before it was mostly dominated by men, and then now it's expanding and it's expanded a lot more. So I'd like to get your opinion on a little bit about competition, being a woman in competition. I know your divisions aren't always stacked and you're always searching for, new women that hopefully will be in your weight division and your category. So tell me how it is nowadays being a woman in Jiu-Jitsu.
So back in the days, like you said, we weren't a lot. I was pretty much the only girl at my gym, and it wasn't too bad because I had a lot of attention. I like attention.
Okay.
And so like guys were really nice to me. They knew that I could like hold my own and that I had good techniques and everything. But it was hard, like getting 2-3 girls in a division when I was a white belt, when I was a blue belt. It was good for me. Sometimes we got like 5 girls and I was like, oh my God, it's like real competition. I'm so excited to do it, you know? But nowadays I'm a purple belt now, and I feel like it's the same because now in Montreal we have a lot of girls doing it. I see it when I do my women's open mat. I see it in competitions. The white belt divisions are stacked. Sometimes they have 10 girls, and the blue belt divisions too are stacked. And I'm so jealous because I went to Ottawa Open 2 weeks ago, and there was no one. Not even like purple belt heavier than me. There was no one. And so it was kind of disappointing, and they kind of bumped me up to the brown belt division. But then brown belt division, there was only one girl too, so we were two. So it's kind of boring in that sense. But I feel like the girls that are starting now, or white belts and blue belt, they have like so many. They're gonna have so many training partners and so many competitors too. Like it's gonna be really good for them because it's getting bigger and bigger.
And you find that there's a reason why maybe women are having a hard time transitioning into jiu-jitsu or even finding jiu-jitsu to start off with. We find that you see a lot of women come in, maybe do a trials or maybe relate it to a little bit more on the self-defense level, or maybe it's the fact that you're gonna have a sweaty guy basically laying on top of you, and a lot of women aren't comfortable with that. Do you have any maybe point of view when it comes to trying to get more women into jiu-jitsu? I know you do at your gym at H2O. You do an open mat for women.
Yeah.
Maybe talk a little bit about that.
So every Sunday we have a women's open mat, and it's open to pretty much every woman from any gym, any levels. And we basically just roll. So for sure, if a girl comes and she has never done jiu-jitsu, it might be a bit harder because she doesn't know it's an open mat, so she doesn't know how to roll. And I'm not really teaching techniques or anything. But I get some white belt, blue belts, purple belts from other gyms that come and that don't actually have a lot of training partners, female training partners. So they come and they get a good roll with me, with the other girls, and it's just fun, like getting to talk to other girls about like the little problems, like, oh my god, my hair can't hold during a roll. I can't talk to you guys about these kind of things. You guys, it's so
because
easy
we have no hair.
Yeah, pretty much. And so it's nice to be able to have those little conversations with the girls. And I mean, I'm trying to promote it as much as possible. And whenever I get a new girl in class with me at H2O, I try to make her feel as comfortable as possible, and I try to make her roll with the other girls in class also. I understand that it's not easy to roll with bigger guys that might be rough without knowing it, and that are all sweaty, stinky. It happens. Like, I had sweat drip in my mouth before, So it's like stuff happens, and I guess I'm just like comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with proximity with people. But for sure, for someone who doesn't actually like physical contact, don't even like giving hugs, it's kind of hard. But you get used to it, and we have like people are so supportive. Guys at the gym are so supportive, and like they should just try it out, give it a try, and more than just one time. They just should come over and over, and after a month, if you don't like it, it's fine. I understand it's not made for you, but give it a try. It's worth it.
At least give it a chance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When we talk about training with guys at the gym, do you find, so I spoke a little bit about this on another podcast with Gabby Cowett. When it comes to training with having a lot of male training partners at your gym, do you find that a lot of guys will be a little nicer to you, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it when they're like super nice to me, and I try to sweep them, and like the sweep is completely like I do it so wrong, and then they just fall over and they're like, oh, good sweep. I'm like, no, it was so bad. Like, don't give it to me. I hate it. Like my boyfriend Steven, sometimes he wants to be nice with me, and I just hate it. I'm like, don't congratulate me for that. Like, I want to feel like I actually got it. There's no satisfaction when you know that the guy gave it to you. And but sometimes some of them are really rough, and that I don't like it either. So you kind of have to find a balance, and I understand that it's hard for a guy to do that, especially if let's say you're a white belt, you try to be nice with me, and then I'm like, you're being too nice, and then he's like, oh, okay, but he doesn't have that much technique to roll with me. So I understand that it's hard. Some guys are better than others for that. But as long as you're trying and you're not trying to kill me either, it's fine. And sometimes the worst is when, like, let's say I submit the guy, a white belt. He's like, oh shit, okay, this girl is pretty good. And then his ego comes in and then he goes hard. That's like the worst thing to do, really.
I think that happens with a lot of white belts. I think is that transition of saying, like, of not accepting that you got caught in something, and they think that they failed, especially by a girl. Trust me, we have a girl in our club. It's the same thing, and she'll catch me every now and then, and because, you know, you get a little higher in the ranks and you start understanding, well, wow, her technique was really good. Mine was not up to par. You don't look at the fact that it's a girl rolling with you or a guy. It makes absolutely no difference. But I think someone new coming into a gym, they'll have a harder time with that transition and be like, oh, well, I'm rolling with a girl, so I'll go a little softer. But then they get caught and they're like, okay, I'm going to smash her now. But it takes a little bit of time, I guess, to understand that.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about your gym. So about H2O, what you guys have going on there when it comes to your jiu-jitsu program. How does a typical jiu-jitsu class look like?
So I really like H2O because, first of all, their classes are 2 hour long. Wow. So I used to do 1 hour long at Gracie Baja, and it was like, that's how I started, so it was normal for me. And then when I went to H2O, I was like, oh my god, this is so long, and the warm-up are so rough. Like, we do like line drills and stretching, running at the beginning, so we're really warm. So I like that because it's a bit of conditioning before each class. Then we do techniques for about 30-40 minutes, and then we roll. So it's a pretty long training session. I spend, like, it's hard for me because I work 9 to 5 pretty much every day, and then I go to training and I spend not just an hour to the gym. At the gym I spend like 3-4 hours at the gym because I have to get there and everything. So it's long, but I really like it, and you get really into it. And so our jiu-jitsu program is we have jiu-jitsu Monday to Wednesday, and then on the weekend I have my women's open mat on Sunday. We have different teachers, actually. We have Richard Ho, we have Raphael Hart, and we have Kevin Charette, who's actually injured right now. His neck is so bad. Oh, no. And actually every time I look at him, I'm like, I'm so scared for my neck, because I'm 25 right now, and I don't want to be 30 and have neck problems that are so bad that I can't even train anymore,
And I think for neck problems or even injuries in general, you're talking about how you guys start off with a warm-up. A lot of jiu-jitsu clubs do not do a warm-up. They'll jump right into technique. That's will be, true. Oh, I can tell you. Well, I could tell you from experience that a lot of schools, and including my school at BTT, we jump into, so we have a curriculum. So we have, specific days, and you have to learn each day. It could be 30 techniques on day 1, 30 techniques day 2 as a white belt. Then you move on to a blue belt and a purple belt sequence. And when we start class, we jump right into our techniques. So there's no warm up, no stretching, no anything.
Really?
And I travel a lot for work because I have a 9 to 5 just like you. And a lot of clubs that I visit have that same thing. It's very weird. It's weird because from my club where I used to come from, Gracie Baja, we would do a warm-up. We would do 20 minutes or 25 minutes of a warm-up. Mm-hmm. You'd warm up your legs, you'd do bridges and shrimps and go up and down the mat. And I'm finding more and more that a lot of clubs are not doing that warm-up. And when we talk about avoiding injuries or, one of your instructors having a bad neck, I think that's where there's a benefit of doing stretches in the beginning. I think you guys avoid a lot of injuries.
For sure. Right? I don't understand how you can just jump up like you drill.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, exactly. So we would we start class, and right away we would jump on the mats and we look at the sequence and we would start working our sequence. Okay. So I guess it's a form of warming up in reality, because I'm not going fully hard. It's not like we're doing rolls right off the bat. We are doing techniques, but you're not going full on and flying a guy through the air with a butterfly sweep and he's flying 10 feet in the air. So I guess that's our form of warming up. Yeah. But there isn't an official warm up where everyone's in a circle and doing a bunch of stretches. Do you find a big benefit of doing that type of thing before start class?
Like, for me, it's more for the conditioning. So the line drills where we do like bear crawl, I don't know, like shoulder rolls, break falls, stuff like that, like all in the line. And our gym is pretty big, so it's a long line, I find it really helps with the conditioning, especially if you're competing. You want to have good cardio, you want to have a good physical conditioning. So it's pretty nice for that. And then for sure it warms my body up so that I don't get injured. For sure, when I'm doing the warm up, I'm gonna try to focus a bit more on stretching. So I do a bit of yoga in the warm up so that my hips are really relaxed and stuff like that. Especially when they're pretty sore.
I guess in the wintertime too, it's probably a good idea to stretch a little bit when you're coming in from like -40 weather.
Exactly. But sometimes like people would come in earlier before class. Like let's say you don't have warm ups at your school, you could come in like 30 minutes earlier and just stretch on your
Right.
own. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think that's a good idea to do.
And you have been a very active competitor. So
I have.
at all competitions that I go to, I know I see your face and you're there.
I'm everywhere.
You're everywhere, which is good. And you were saying that you took a little bit of a hiatus when it comes to competition. I mentioned a little bit at the beginning of the show, all of your accomplishments, competing a lot. Tell me a little bit what you've been through in the past little while, and maybe you took a little bit of break from the competition circuit.
So when I started jiu-jitsu, I competed, I think like 3 months after starting jiu-jitsu, and I had like success. So I just like didn't stop competing. At that time, jiu-jitsu was legal in Montreal. So we had so many tournaments available for us. SCU, Grappling Industries, it was like all in Montreal. So we didn't have to drive like 1 or 2 hours away to participate, So I pretty much did all of them that it was in Montreal because I had a lot of success. So it helps when you're actually winning, to compete. And then, so white belt, blue belt, I competed so much. And then when I got my purple belt, first of all, it was harder to find myself opponents. So I started doing those super fights where they actually find me an opponent and I just show up and I fight, So those were good. And then injuries just rained down on me. I had neck problems. At my super fight at the Montreal Invitational, I actually went for, it was like the first time heel hooks were allowed in my super fights. And so I was like, oh my God, I'll reap, So I reap, she tries to get up. I just push her down and my knee pops at the same time when I push her down. And in my head, I'm like, okay, it really hurts. Should I stop or should I keep going? Because I had a really good position. So I kept going and I got the heel hook. Thank God. But then...
Was it worth it?
It was completely worth it.
Okay.
But then after that, my knee, oh my Lord, it was so bad. It was the first time I had like a big injury after about 3-4 years of competition, of training. So that's pretty good.
That is good.
But then as soon as I started having one injury, everything just started going down. And then I had, like I said, neck problems, knee problems, and then stuff like pink eye.
That's so random out of nowhere, right?
Oh, that was awful. Guys, if you have pink eye, this is like a general like message for everyone. There are 2 kinds of pink eye. They're bacterial and viral. Bacterial, it's fine. You can use drops, like antibiotics, drops, and it's going to go away. If you have the viral kind, lock yourself in your house. Don't go out. Don't
and that's
do
what you
anything.
had? You had the viral?
That is what I had. They gave me like antibiotics. It wasn't working. And I went to hospital. I was like, I can't see. And they're like, oh, you're fine. Just go home. So I go home and nothing's getting better. And I was actually starting to lose my vision. Wow. And I went to go see an optometrist. And she flipped my eyelid over and she saw there was like a crust of like secretion that was like rubbing on my cornea. So she took it off, and then it was like it took me like 3 weeks to heal. And during that time, I couldn't go to jiu-jitsu. I couldn't work. It was awful. So like, guys, if you have pink eye, just like be careful. Don't go to the gym because you're going to give it to everyone. It's like really,
Is it contagious? Yeah.
So contagious.
Oh, yeah.
I give it to my boyfriend.
Nice. He's actually sitting in the corner right now saying, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, this is love, guys. Love. But yeah, so it was just awful. So I had like little things like that kept me away from the mat, and it's just frustrating. I was supposed to do a super fight against this girl named Ashton in Ontario, and I couldn't because of that. And yeah, so I haven't been really lucky in the past year and a half. So an Ottawa Open was the first competition I did in the past year and a half.
Do you find yourself watching it, because you have to stay maybe off the mats or train a little differently? Yeah. Do you find yourself watching a lot of stuff on YouTube or doing a lot of research on technique or?
I do, but at the same time, it's very frustrating when you can't train just looking at videos and you're like, oh, I really want to be on the mat. Like it's really frustrating. So I think when I was offered pink eye, I was just like reading books about health stuff. Like I was reading Aubrey Marcus' book. I don't know if you
I don't know.
it's called Own the Day. So he gives like little tips and tricks that you can do like every day to make your day better. Like drinking salty water with like lemon in it in the morning. It's gonna wake you up, and then do like 10 minutes of exercise in the morning, stuff like that. So I read his book, but now that I'm back in jiu-jitsu, I'm actually watching so many videos. Like I'm watching videos of like Rafa Mendes rolling for 30 minutes, like just rolling. There's no actual
commentary or anything.
He's not showing techniques, right. Nothing, and I'm just watching and I'm like absorbing everything, and then I try to do the same thing when I roll because he's so good.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree when it comes to the videos. I think the commentary and the instructionals are good when you're trying to pinpoint something specific. So my roll didn't go good tonight because I can't get that underhook. I don't understand why I can't get the underhook. So you'll go on YouTube and you'll search it and you'll find 1,000 videos on guys trying to explain how to get the underhook. But just watching guys roll for 30 minutes, I do the same thing. There's a lot of great videos out there. You learn a lot just from watching. On Flow Grappling, that's another website where you can watch a lot of matches. Yeah, there's people talking in the background and commenting, but you actually get to watch full matches, which is great. Because you're an active competitor, yes, we had pink eye and we've learned from it, and now we're moving on. But when it comes to the competition, do you find yourself cutting a lot of weight and having to watch your diet a little bit more closely? Are you someone that eats healthy on a regular basis, or?
So when I was a white and blue belt, I used to walk around at like 123. So I was really light, I guess, at that time. So I didn't have to cut that much weight because I was competing in 125 and under divisions. The lowest I've been was like 118. It was for NAGA. I just didn't want to be in the same division as my friend. Okay. So I just cut down to 118, and it wasn't even that bad. I went on a diet for that one. I just stopped eating carbs, and I was eating like protein and vegetables. But just like I don't like using this as an excuse, but it's way harder for a girl to lose weight. In my experience, like I feel like guys, you're gonna lose that extra fat a bit easier. For girls, I think it's something about like physiologically, like you need fat because like your body thinks you're gonna need fat when you actually you're carrying a child. You need the fat to like feed him or something. Right. So it's a bit harder for us, and it also messes up with our hormones. So this is like more for girls, but like girls, if you're trying to lose weight, like it might be harder, and it might like unbalance like your whole hormones level. So just be really careful with it. So for me, yeah, the 118 wasn't that bad, but then I tried losing weight again for a few other competitions, and it was just really hard. So now I'm competing. I'm like walking around at like 129, and I compete at 135 and under. So I don't really have to cut. I'm not the heaviest girl in the division. I'm not the lightest girl in the division, so it's fine. And I was actually talking to Corey from 10 Planet about this, and he's been doing like really good competitions lately, Worlds, Pan Ams, and stuff like that, and he's been really successful. Mm-hmm. And he told me that he used to cut weight to go down a division so that he would be the heaviest, and he thought that he would get like an advantage. But then he said that he felt weak doing it. As soon as he started competing, he didn't feel like he had good grips, and he was losing a lot of strength. And he was also the slowest. The other people were quicker than him
because they were lighter, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he started he was like, fuck that, I'm just gonna keep like not cut weight and stay in my normal division. And it actually was way better for him. He was the quickest. He didn't feel hungry, he didn't feel tired, he felt like 100%, So I'm kind of like trying to have the same mentality as him now, like towards cutting weight. I don't really try to cut weight. And do I eat healthy? I try to. I try to eat a lot of vegetables every day, but I eat like pretty balanced meals. So I have my carbs, I have my protein, and like I'll have pizza, pizza, pasta. I don't really mind. I just feel better when I eat a balanced diet, and I feel better on the mats. I feel like I can train better, and I feel like I can, like mentally, when I train, sometimes when I was cutting weight, I wasn't mentally there. I had a hard time focusing on the techniques, and I was just so tired, you know. But now I'm just like 100%, and that's, I think, because I'm just eating normally.
And how many times a week do you find yourself training?
I try to do 5 to 6 days of training. So I would, yeah. So like 1 day of rest would be perfect for me.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a lot of training. If you're saying that your classes are 2 hours long, that's a lot of jiu-jitsu.
It is a lot of jiu-jitsu.
Oh, wow.
But I love it.
Yeah, okay, that's good. So you kind of touched a little bit on the fact that, you know, you started in one club and moved to another club afterwards.
Yeah.
I think this is a really interesting topic because it's a big taboo in jiu-jitsu, you know, especially when you get in the higher ranks. So, you know, I was in the same boat as you. I started off in one jiu-jitsu club, was there for, you know, a few years, and then decided that I needed a change and to get up and leave. So I will definitely break the ice and tell you a little bit about how it happened to me. And then I wouldn't mind getting your point of view on it. Maybe not about the situation itself, but, you know, maybe that misconception that you can't do it. For me, I did switch clubs. I was a blue belt at the time. So, you know, you find a lot of, you know, if you're a brown belt and you've been in the same club forever, I mean, you need to have my opinion, you need to have a really strong reason to get up and leave, because you're almost there, right? You're almost there. But I mean, even at that point, there could be a very strong reason why you need to switch clubs. You might have to move. You might be in an area where you only have 2 or 3 gyms and your gym is not in the area anymore. So there are reasons for it. At the time, for me, it was just I needed a change. So I needed more structure. I'm a very structured person. I've been in management for many, many years, and I'm very organized. If you take a look at my inbox at work, I have 1,000 folders. That's everything is named, has a different title, and everything gets slid into basically a specific folder. And I'm very organized and structured. And I found that where I was before, that structure wasn't necessarily there. So I started looking outside of the bubble and to see if there was life outside of the club I was in, and I did discover there was jiu-jitsu, and the same jiu-jitsu, just elsewhere, and it was just done a different way, and that just worked for me. I needed something a little different. Maybe tell me a little bit about that change. Did you find it really hard going from one club to another, the transition to meet a whole new group of people, considering that you did have a background in jiu-jitsu?
So for me, the transition wasn't like right away. I don't know for you, was it like from one day to another?
It was one
bam,
day to the next.
You just decided to change?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I started training at H2O with the women's open mat. Actually, I knew the girl who was organizing it, and she was like inviting me. So I was like, yeah, sure. I don't have any classes on Sunday. I'll just go down to H2O, and then they started inviting me to their regular classes, and I was like, yeah, okay, sure, let's try it out. And they were really focused on competition. Like they had like a competition. It's not there anymore, but they had a competition class where the warm up was really, really rough. So, and then we did techniques, rolling, and then at the end they did like a little tournament where they put like someone in the middle and they just Shark Tank that person, and it was like always me because I always had a competition coming up. Okay. And so at that time I was big into competition, and I was getting, like I said, a lot of success. So I really wanted to keep competing, and I didn't have the same level of training at Gracie Baja. So at that time it was a rough decision because I was like really involved at Gracie Baja. I was giving like the kids classes and everything, and I loved the people there. Like they were like my second family, and I just thought that I was thinking that it would just be better for myself, like for my jiu-jitsu career. Like,
right.
I just thought it would be better. And I also knew like people from H2O because like I knew that girl who was organizing it. She introduced me to the other girls, and they introduced me to their instructor. So like I kind of knew them. I wasn't going there knowing no one. So they were all like super nice to me all the time. So I just decided to change, and it was a big change for me because I actually live close to Laval. So H2O is like about 35 minutes from my house. So it's a long way, but in my mind it was just worth it. So I did the change, and I don't regret it. I've had a lot of people message me right after the change because people knew that I was at GB Laval. They saw me in competitions and everything, so they knew, and they saw it, and they were all surprised, and they all messaged me. Some people asked me, like, do you think I could do it too? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, why not? Like, if it's better for you, just do it. But it was a big change. But if you feel like it's the right thing to do, you have to do it. You have to think about yourself. That's what I told myself. I was like, it's kind of egoist. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I had to do it, and people were great.
Yeah, I think at some point you could get to a point where you say to yourself, things are good, but I'm missing something. And I think everyone should definitely give it a chance to make it work where you are, because you have to remember, yes, it is a business. So you are paying monthly to do jiu-jitsu. Your instructor is dedicating time in you, but at the end of the day, they're trying to run a business too. And at the end of the day, if you're trying to get out, there are specific things that you're trying to get from jiu-jitsu, whether in your case is I'm a very active competitor, so I need to have a very competitor mindset. So people around me need to have that mindset too. So that's where you say, okay, well, maybe I need to start looking elsewhere to find a very competitive school, or it's, in my case, it was maybe a little bit more structure. But
it's also about like the training. Like different schools have different training. And the style. So first of all, the style of jiu-jitsu, is it more competition jiu-jitsu, so sport jiu-jitsu, or is it more self-defense? So depending on what you're looking for, that might be a factor. And then it's also about the age. I feel like at H2O, they were like younger people, so they were like more hungry for competition and stuff like that. The other at GB, it was more like there were more family guys, and they just wanted to train for fun and to get a good like workout every day. So it's just not the same vibe in every school, and it doesn't mean that one is wrong and one is good. Like it depends on what you're looking for. But yeah, for me, one of the things that stood out was I was competing at Grappling Industries, and I had no coach that time. There was just no one in my corner, and Kevin Charette, the coach of H2O, he didn't know me. He just knew that I knew Jen, this girl from H2O, and he just sat down in my corner because he saw that I was by myself, and he just started coaching me. And that just like, I don't know, it just like really warmed my heart. Like I was like, wow, you don't know me, but you saw that I was by myself and I was stressed, and he just sat down there and coached me. And I think that's like one of the things I love the most about jiu-jitsu is the community, how people support each other, even if you're not from the same school. We're doing the same sport, we're doing the same martial art, and like we just have to support like each other,
Do you find that there's still a lot of politics in jiu-jitsu, or?
For sure.
Yeah. We spoke about it a little bit before we started the podcast, but there was I would say it was, for my opinion, it was a lot worse beforehand.
Yeah.
Maybe the fact that here in Montreal, Canada, that there is a ban on jiu-jitsu. Because of the article, the law unfortunately kind of puts it under that MMA banner, even though there is no striking or kicking in jiu-jitsu. So we have to go outside the province to be able to go and compete in jiu-jitsu. So I think that brought people closer together. So something good came out of something really bad, but there's still obviously some affiliation issues and people saying, well, I'm not going to go train with them because they're not the same club or this and that. But do you feel like it's getting better?
It is getting better. So for sure, like my women's open mat, like there's no politics at all. Like you come from any school, you're always welcome. But it's always going to be there. And I kind of understand too, though, like if I'm going to compete against a girl and then she comes to my open mat and we roll and I'm like, okay, I'll see you next week in competition. It's just weird. Like it's, so for sure, I understand why they are like, there are still boundaries. Like you can't just go train with the guy that you're going to compete against. But sharing knowledge is just because now with YouTube you can just learn everything. It's like, I don't know, it's just it's a hard question actually. Like,
yeah. But I think your open mat is kind of,
for the girls it's pretty
for
good.
The girls is good. I mean, you don't see that for the guys. Hey, maybe we should start something. Maybe
They
I gotta talk to your boyfriend. We should do something.
He actually did want to start a men's open mat.
There you go. I see the women's open mat whenever you guys post things, and there's other clubs that do it. We at BTT we actually do a free women's class. I mean, it's not hugely promoted, but women come in and they get to to do jiu-jitsu once a week for free, and we're trying to open the door to more
Yeah.
women to get into jiu-jitsu. But there is honestly nothing like that for guys. I remember at GB West, they used to do
Yeah.
that. They used to do an
Yeah.
open mat on Sundays, and they opened it to every club. So you'd have guys from different affiliations come up and do the open mat. And to your exact point, the issue is that a lot of competitors ended up going to that open mat, and people in the same weight class in the same divisions, it makes it a little touchy. So even if you're not rolling with the guy, you're looking at the corner of your eye and you're looking at the guy in the corner, you're like, I'm probably going to roll with him next month, so I'm going to watch what he does. So there was a little bit of that, but I think maybe there is something to do there, saying, hey, let's do an open mat for maybe guys and girls, right? Let's not, exclude the
please.
girls, even
Right,
though
come on.
they won't let us in their open mat. But maybe there's something to do there too. And I throw this out to the jiu-jitsu community. Think about it. Maybe there is a way to get, let's break those politics to say, let's have an open door policy once a week, whether it be for an hour or 2 hours. Everyone gets together. Yeah. We share some tips and tricks, and we get to roll together. Everyone gets to have fun. That way, when you go to competitions or you do, you see each other at different events, everyone can socialize, can talk, but then when it's time to get down to business, you get down to business. But I think there needs to be that camaraderie, not just within one school, but it should be a large community. Everyone says, I do BJJ, I have a bunch of brothers and sisters, we're so close, it's not like any other sport. Mm-hmm. That should be all around jiu-jitsu. It shouldn't just be within the club. Everyone should have that vibe. So now you're making me think of something here. So I'm
a project there.
I'm eyeballing your boyfriend now, sitting in the corner. Maybe there's something to do there. Gi or no gi?
Oh boy, this is like, I have this debate with my boyfriend. This is what it's like to date like someone who does jiu-jitsu too. I have this debate every single week or every single day that we train, and for someone who started in gi, like I was only doing gi for the first 3 years of my jiu-jitsu career, I guess. I did no gi maybe once every 2 weeks, but I was like, no gi, So I did gi for 3 years, and then I went to H2O, and they were like more focused on no gi. So then I started doing no gi, and it was a bit hard at the beginning. I didn't have the same grips, but then I got used to it pretty quickly. Now I've been doing more no gi for the past 2 years. I'm trying to go back to gi, and it's so hard. Like, it's just not the same, and I feel like I'm so slow in the gi, and people can grab me so much, like they can just pin me down
and hold you.
Exactly. So this is like a good debate, because my boyfriend thinks that it's easier to go from no gi to gi because you can do the no gi techniques in the gi, but it's not true though. Like it's hard to get an arm triangle on someone when they have like collars and gi material a bit everywhere, and it's different because you don't feel like you can move as easily.
I don't find I don't have too much of an opinion on that, because I don't know too many no-gi guys who went from strictly gi, like wrestlers, or maybe just no gi, that went into the gi and then realized, oh man, they're having a really hard time. I think a lot of guys who start in jiu-jitsu will start in the gi and then will start realizing that there's some potential in no gi that would complement my gi game. That's what I found when I started doing no gi. I was very no gi. I have t-shirts upstairs that says no gi, no thank you. That was my motto. I got t-shirts made. I was like, I want nothing to do with no gi, because I was
definitely
I was a hater. I was like, I'm very big on lapels. I got obsessed with choking people out with my own lapel, with their lapel, and if I didn't have a gi on, I was like, this is retarded. I did one class and I got exhausted after a minute of rolling. I was like, this is a lot of work. I just want to like sit on somebody and put my knees on their lapels so they can't shrimp out and just like stall it out. But when I finally broke that mental thought when I was a blue belt and I started doing some no gi, it really changed my gi game. Yeah. It changed it completely. Just going for the head and controlling the head, which you have to do in no gi, really helped my gi game out. Pushing on the head was definitely a big one. Not being able to grab onto things and keeping that open hand, I find that it's saving my grips. I find like my hands are doing a lot better now that I'm doing no gi and gi than before when I was just doing gi and I was just constantly pulling and pushing. I find like my old hands are getting a little better, just because I'm not using strictly gi grips, that I'm keeping open hands.
That's true, yeah.
But do you find yourself, do you compete in a lot of no gi compared to gi now?
Yeah, it's been like my few last competitions were no gi submission only, so that's like another debate. Also submission only or point. competitions, but so it was like no-gi only, and I loved it. And like I was like you, I disliked no-gi so much in my first few years.
Did you make t-shirts?
I was almost there.
Oh,
Yeah, probably. I would have bought one from you for sure. But I'm trying, like, now I'm actually like, I'm trying to get back in the gi because I kind of miss it. So I'm trying to get Steven into it too, and he's the one like who started in no-gi. He's like he did wrestling before, and then he went to no-gi at H2O, so he's like really not into the gi, and I'm trying to convince him to do it because I feel like if you want your black belt, you have to be able to do gi.
That's
you know?
Interesting. That's really interesting.
That's like another debate too.
Because you see it a lot at the 10th planet level too. You know, you see the 10th planet schools, and they're doing it's all no gi, but they will receive their
belt.
Their belts, right? That's
it's true
really
though.
Interesting.
Oh no, that's I forgot about 10th planet there. But for me, like personally, I want to be as good in the gi as in no gi. And when I get that black belt, I want to be able to defend myself in both, you know?
Right.
So if someone asks me how much I should train in gi and how much I should train in no gi, I think it should be like 70% of the one you prefer, 70% no gi, let's say, and then 30% of gi, or the contrary.
Just so at least you're touching the other one. You're getting
You have to.
Right.
You have to. I don't know. That's a personal. I don't really have like a good reason for it.
I think most people realize that down the road. You know, I think, you know, in the beginning, it's you pick one or the other. And if you wait too long to even open your mind to the other one, you're very close. You know, your boyfriend is a good example of that. He's always done no-gi. And it's so hard now at his level to be like, I want you to put this uniform on, and I'm going to grab onto your lapels.
I'm going to do some worm guard
there
around
you go.
Like...
So it's hard. But I guess when it's a little earlier on in your jiu-jitsu career, when you're like a white belt or a blue belt, and you start touching maybe no-gi if you're just doing gi, or gi if you're just doing no-gi, it's a little easier to say, okay, now I'm going to start doing a little bit of this and a little bit more of that. Definitely beneficial.
Do you think it's easier to go from gi to no-gi or no-gi to gi?
I don't know. I honestly, I've never really, I didn't start in no-gi. I was such a no-gi hater because I was only doing gi. I definitely see the benefit of doing both, because I'm reaping those benefits now as a purple belt. I'm taking some no-gi stuff and transitioning into the gi. But what I do see is a lot of wrestlers that want to start jiu-jitsu, they do really good on top, and the second they end up on the bottom, they have a hard time. You see them all the time coming into the club, and they have good cardio though. They have cardio for days, or cardio or stamina, and they really like map the floor with people. I think on the technical aspect, like I said, I think they're stronger on top than on the bottom. But I think there is a possible transition. I think you need to be willing to go there. I think, like I said, a lot of people are very close-minded. Is I'm doing this, I'm going to get my black belt in this, or this is my career path and I'm doing that. It's a lot easier for people that come in, I think, to jiu-jitsu that say, I want to do MMA.
Yeah.
You know, so they might start off in the gi, but if they want to do MMA, they have to go no-gi. They don't have a choice. I know you guys at H2O, you guys have a huge MMA program.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have tons of fighters coming up in the UFC, and things are going really, really well. Did you ever consider going into MMA at all?
For sure. So my coach, Richard, he always pushing me to go into MMA, and he posted like a video of me doing pads with him the other day on Facebook, and then
I saw that.
And then everyone was like, "Oh my God, Ariane, are you doing an MMA fight?"
Yeah.
No, I'm staying away from it. I personally, like I said, I have a job, and I don't want to. I'm so scared of concussions. That is like concussion and rib injuries. Those are like the two things that I'd never want to get through jiu-jitsu or through anything. And doing MMA and doing sparring, like it puts you so much at risk. And I did do some striking at one point for like a month, and I was really into it. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do an MMA fight, and then I did sparring with everyone at H2O, and I liked it. And I don't think I was bad. I wasn't the best for sure. Like I'm a grappler for sure, but I liked it, but then at one point after a sparring session, I just started having headaches, and I was like, oh no, this is not good.
I don't want this.
Yeah, I really don't want this. I want to be able to work, like, so.
Because jiu-jitsu right now is not I mean, there's a lot of people get into jiu-jitsu, they get so obsessed and so involved in jiu-jitsu that their goal is, I want to do jiu-jitsu full time. And it's mostly because when you go online and you look at the bigger jiu-jitsu names, these are guys who quit their full-time job.
Yeah.
They're living in the gym. They're training jiu-jitsu 6-7 hours a day, possibly more, and that's their life. And when you first start in jiu-jitsu, you get so obsessed with it, and it's so contagious that you're saying, you know what, maybe I could quit my full-time job and do jiu-jitsu all the time.
Yeah, why not open up a school? And
Why not? It's possible. I have to say, I did take a few months off of, I would say, work, where I ended up taking a leave, and I was in between two jobs, and I wanted to go into a new career, and I decided I'm going to leave my job. I wasn't happy. I needed something fresh and new, and there was about a 3 or 4 month period before I really found what I'm doing now and what I wanted to do. So I trained nonstop for 4 months. So I was training morning class, lunchtime class, evening class. I was there all the time. And I realized that my body could not keep up to my will. I wanted to so bad. And after that experience of just doing 3 or 4 months of full-time jiu-jitsu, I was exhausted. All I wanted to do was take a nap, like a really long nap. My body could not keep up with it. And I have a nutritionist coming on the show shortly. He's a sports nutritionist who's going to talk a little bit about recovery and sports nutrition and meal plans and all this thing. But for me, it sounded great, and I thought that's what I wanted to do, and even think of a potential of, hey, could I do this full time? But I realized that my body could not take it. As much as I love jiu-jitsu, I still need to make a good salary. I have a family. I've got kids. I need to pay a mortgage. You have things to do. There is a potential. You see people do it. People open up schools, and they're very, very successful, and that's great. I don't think it's for everybody to do that, because there would be a billion jiu-jitsu schools or MMA schools around.
There are already a billion around.
There you go. There's already
around.
a lot. So you do work a 9 to 5. Do you ever see yourself just committing to jiu-jitsu?
Oh, for sure. I dreamed about it in the first few years of doing jiu-jitsu. I was like, I should open a school and then travel and do seminars, and but to be able to do that, you need to reach the higher levels and compete like World, Pan Ams, and make a name out of yourself.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
Okay.
Getting old.
No, but you have time.
Everything rained down on me when I turned 25. I was like injuries everywhere. But I feel like if I start doing it, some people don't realize that if they start doing it 100 for a living, it kind of takes away the pleasure. Like,
it feels
you're
more like
it's
work. Maybe?
Yeah, and then you're just not enjoying it anymore. And also, opening a school is not like, oh, I'm gonna do jiu-jitsu every day. It's business. You have to get into business and take care of the school and everything. And people don't think about that aspect.
It's not just showing up to the gym and doing jiu-jitsu with a bunch of people.
Showing up and teaching, that's not it. There's everything else that you have to take care of, and some people don't realize it, and they open up a school and they're like, oh, damn. Oh, it's harder than I thought, I
have to write receipts and calculate payments and do my
this?
taxes. And yeah, I know it's much different.
Yeah, but for sure, I still think about it. I mean, maybe someday I'll be able to work a job and then to open up a school and take care of it on the side or something. Maybe just teaching some classes at H2O also. That could be really nice too. But I always want to have jiu-jitsu in my life. I always I want to compete, or I want to help people out. It has to be in my life for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I've been helping out with the toddler program. So we have kids, toddlers, yes, 3 to 5.
Ooh.
I had this little girl last week. She walked up to me. I got down on my knees. It was right before class. I was fixing her belt. She puts both of her hands on my cheeks. She gets really close to my face, and she goes, "Coach Ray, me and Mommy threw up last night."
Oh.
Honestly, I was like, I just got the stomach flu. She just touched my face. I'm totally getting sick. This is not good. So it's a lot of fun teaching kids and teaching toddlers. But I have to say, one thing is that you're going to be sick all the time, constantly, because kids are always sick. How would you describe your style of jiu-jitsu if you had to describe it to somebody?
I'm a lazy jiu-jitsu player.
We've
like,
never rolled together, so I have no idea.
So lazy. Like, I don't. For sure, I think I'm quicker than, because I usually roll with bigger people than me. And I think I'm quicker than them, but I'm not. I won't go for. I'm not good in scrambles. Yeah, when it becomes a bit chaotic, I'm like, oh, what should I do? And I try to pin the person down and just slow down the pace, you know. And then I usually try to use as less energy as I can, and it's also because even if I use 100% of my strength, sometimes it just won't work on someone bigger. They can overpower me and everything. So when I do a move, I try to use the techniques and the leverage more than strength. For sure, I use my strength. I think I'm strong, and I'm stronger than the average. That's what people told me, and I think that it helps me out a lot. So sometimes I guess when I roll with girls, I cheat a bit because I use my strength against them. But yeah, I'm a really lazy jiu-jitsu player, and I like to pass though. I'm not a guard player at all. So girls competing against me, don't listen to this. But I love passing. That's why I love Rafa Mendes.
Okay.
Because he has his passing style is so crazy. And I try to like get inspired by him and stuff like that.
And what would you say is your favorite submission?
Rear naked choke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Marcelo Teen.
Okay.
I just love Marcelo Garcia too.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw, but he might come back into competition.
Okay, that's fancy.
That's awesome. Man, that's awesome.
So, doing no-gi, do you find yourself, because you're in I don't want to label it an MMA gym, but H2O.
It's called H2O MMA.
So it's an MMA
yes,
gym.
you can label it.
Okay, it's an MMA gym. Well, so when you guys are doing no-gi, did you have you always done leg locks? Has it been open now to everybody who jumps in? Someone who's been there for a month can now start, learning leg locks and go into it?
We don't do a lot of leg locks. Sometimes Richard will show it, but for me personally, I don't think that white belts should learn
like heel
hooks. Yeah, I feel like it's a bit too advanced for them. Also, the way I was brought into jiu-jitsu, I did the fundamentals courses at GB. So it's a 16-week program. They go through all the positions. So mount attack, bottom mount, side control, turtle, stuff like that. So it's like all the basic positions, and I feel like that's what you need to learn when you're starting out, and not leg locks. I feel like leg locks are a bit too advanced. But maybe it's just because I'm still having trouble with it too right now. They should be aware of it, but I would never go for heel hooks on a white belt if I roll with them, or on a blue belt, because I don't know, it's just not good. And even in MMA, in amateur, you're not allowed heel hooks, I think.
I don't know.
Depending on the competition for sure, but I'm pretty sure you can't do heel hooks. We do practice a lot of wall techniques though. So because in MMA you have the cage,
right.
So you actually need to know how to wall wrestle, and we do that in no-gi classes. Yeah.
Okay, so that's really interesting, because a lot of people that I talk to when we talk about no-gi, the first thing they think about nowadays is the leg lock game, just because everyone's talking about it all the time. You go online or you watch Polaris or any of these, EBI, everyone's getting finished by a leg lock. So yeah. Everyone's thinking that that's where we're at now. That's part of the game, but.
Are you doing any leg locks?
So we do, in our no-gi classes, we do leg locks when we're doing it with our professor. When we do rolls, if he is present, he allows leg locks.
Okay.
But you have to know what you're doing. White belts won't do leg locks.
Like leg locks with reaping?
Yeah, so you can go heel hooks, you can go knee bars, toe holds, all that stuff, but it's a very controlled environment. Okay, and it's only when he's there. So initially, Fabio Holanda, who is obviously the founder of BTT Canada, Brazilian top team, he was like, no, we'll do it if someone's competing, and we'll train that person for it. But in your regular no-gi classes, we would do our curriculum, and we weren't reaping, we weren't doing heel hooks or things like that. And then we noticed that there was more and more people competing in no-gi and doing super fights and things like that, like Brianna St. Marie, and that's you have to know, like, because you're gonna get caught in it. So if you don't know how to do it, you'll have no idea how to get out of it either. So that's when they start opening up the curriculum and saying, okay, in no-gi we'll start allowing it, but under a very controlled environment, because there is a risk for injury for people that don't know how to do it properly. And you hear people say all the time, people that do a lot of no-gi and do heel hooks and things like that, I've never been injured, or I make sure when I do it properly, and I don't ever see anyone getting injured. I think the risk of injury is just as high as if I were to grab a Kimura and yank on someone's arm. I could really, yank on that arm and pull someone's shoulder out if I really wanted to. And I think in leg locks, I would be able to do the same thing. I think you can control when you do have a leg lock, but one thing that you don't control is what the other person's reaction is going to be, right? So they might turn and rotate in the wrong way, and that's where I think the risk of injury is really high. I was, when I had first got in, I would say midway through blue belt, I was in top half, and I slid my knee through like I was going to do a knee slice, and I decided, I think this is a genius idea. I'm just going to swing my leg completely to the other side, and it was a great idea if my foot actually followed me, but it didn't, and I ended up tearing my MCL, and it was just something ridiculous. It came out of nowhere. I really couldn't have predicted it. It wasn't from doing a leg lock or anything super crazy, but injuries are bound to happen. So I say we do it, but it's a very controlled environment. I think it's important to know that it's there and to know how to get out of it, but to do it on an everyday basis, I think maybe you might be setting yourself up for trouble, I would say.
I feel like the Kimura, you can feel it before it actually pops. The heel hook, you don't feel it, and then your knee just pops out of nowhere. So that's why it's more dangerous, because the person doesn't feel the pressure that much. And when I think that people who actually apply heel hooks, they should just get it and try to control the position and let go then. Except if you're doing a really, really like intense roll with someone and you're preparing for a competition, that's actually a really good reason like to practice leg locks. If it's part of competition, then it's fine. But are you allowed heel hooks in white belt divisions?
No.
Even no-gi? Yeah, okay, exactly.
No,
so like new people coming in, I don't want them learning heel hooks and hurting each other. Like, I'm scared for me too, but I'm able to either tap or like get myself out of it. But new people who don't know anything about it, they don't even know what mount is, you can't show them a leg lock. Probably
not a good idea.
Don't do it.
Even grappling industries, I think it's only in the advanced division that you're allowed to do heel hooks, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah.
I'm getting the high five from your boyfriend in the corner. yeah. I do a lot of grappling industries. I know you like them too. I love their tournaments. And yeah, I have my medals up, some on the wall. They actually just launched a submission only tournament.
Oh.
So
interesting. It's never gonna end though.
That's the thing.
Everyone's gonna roll for 30 minutes.
We're trying to figure out how long. Like, do you start at 8:00 in the morning and it's like 1 a.m. and everyone's still like trying to tap each other out? We don't know. But you guys can go check that out on Facebook. It's really, really interesting. I think it's an interesting take on jiu-jitsu competition. I don't know how it will end, but
there's no time limit or anything?
I don't know. I would have to check. I don't think so, but it's really something new that he's bringing. I know he's doing one in the States. If I'm not mistaken, it's New York. I'll have to double check. But I know he wants to do one in Canada also, if I'm not mistaken. I saw some posting about that. Yeah. But I think that's really going to open up things to people, because you had mentioned that you're really liking the submission only compared to the point system. Is there a reason for that?
So I used to compete point system only, and I loved it because I could pin them down and get my points and go mount, and it felt so satisfying to get those points. Mm-hmm. But then I started training for no-gi submission only, and it's just a different kind of, it's not the competition itself, but it's the whole training you have before, the 2 months before when you're training for it. It's completely different because you don't have the same mindset. You're like, oh, I'm giving up my back, it's fine, like I'm not gonna, there's no point involved, and you're more focused on submission, so you're gonna maybe die for a kimura, but then you don't care about losing that top position, and it opens up the whole role in itself. You're gonna see more things when you roll than if you were just looking at points. And I think that's really good for your jiu-jitsu. And I feel that that's something that I have to work on, because I was competing so much in points. I was just thinking about the positions. And I like the saying, like I always say this to beginners, but it's always positions before submissions. You have to get into a good into a good position to get a submission. But now with the sub only like context, it's a bit different, because you could just pull out an armbar from bottom side control, you know. So it's a bit different. But for beginners, I think training for point system is good, because they have to think about their position. And there's a reason why the mount is 4 points compared to the knee on belly, because for mount you have way more submissions. So point system is great, but sub only is good for more advanced jiu-jitsu players, because it's going to open up your game. And
do you do any IBJJF competition?
I don't know. I haven't really, because I feel like they're so expensive, and if you lose your first fight, then you're done. And also they're so far, so you have to like travel there, get the hotel, pay for the competition, you compete, and then that's it. So I haven't done any of those lately. I prefer doing submission only these days. Yeah.
So what's your plan now moving forward when it comes to competition? Do you have anything lined up? What's the next tournament?
So the next tournament is Grappling Industries in Toronto in January. I think January 5th, if I'm not wrong. So girls, show up. And I'm really looking forward to that one. I'm in my training camp right now.
Okay, great. And for people that are in Montreal, maybe, so when is your open mat for women, if anybody's interested to come by?
So my women's open mat are on Sunday. Actually, just add me on Facebook, Ariane Dang, and I'll add you to the group. So we have a group, and we tell people like who's going to show up, so we know how many girls we are. I was interested in maybe doing a program where we go to one gym every week. So it would be like a women's open mat, but then we would just change the location every week, so everybody gets to experience it, you know?
That's interesting.
And I might do something about that one. I have to talk to the girls, see if they're into it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, make sure to add Ariane Dang on Facebook. She posts lots of cool things, always stuff about jiu-jitsu. You might see her punching some pads, and then and you can flood her inbox with, are you going to do MMA now? Are you going to punch someone in the face? I really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you for coming, and you're
so
welcome
much.
back anytime.
Perfect. Thank you, Ray.
You've been listening to Let's Talk Jiu-Jitsu with Raymond Terrence. Go follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page. Turn on notifications and press that like button. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the mats.